This video will contain spoilers for Act 1 of Silksong.
Man, I loved playing Silksong. The story was intriguing, the crests blew me away, and Farloom itself is just gorgeous. But when I look around YouTube to see what people are talking about, I cannot believe what I'm hearing. The biggest discussion right now is on whether or not Silksong is too hard. That's not the damn question, folks. The question is whether or not it does difficulty right. And I'm sorry to say it, but Silksong has some of the worst implementations of difficulty I have ever seen. I'm not kidding when I tell you that I'm writing this script right now with only one hand because I strained the other while playing Silksong through a combination of having to retry some of these absolutely horrendously flawed boss fights dozens of times, and from slamming my table out of burning rage after dying to something so incomprehensibly stupid that I refuse to believe that this game was ever properly playtested. I love Silksong. It's an amazing game, and I truly mean that. But man, in its current state, it is one of the most frustrating games I have ever played. I'm making this video right now because I could never fit all of my problems with Silksong into a single script. There's simply too much to talk about, and I'd rather not rush through anything. I want to cover each problem in detail, talk about the core of the issue instead of just glossing over it, and then, because I truly want this game to be the best it can be, I want to give my suggestions on how the issue might be fixed. I want to talk about my problems with the Drifter's Cloak and why I know such an ability can be designed better. I want to talk about flying enemies, why they didn't really work in Hollow Knight and why they are horrible in Silksong. I want to talk about one of the worst enemy moves ever conceptualized, the backdash, and about the overarching problems that plague both the enemy and boss design. And I want to talk about so much more, but to do that, I need to know that I'm not the only person who cares about getting to the truth. The truth about what Silksong does right, what it does wrong, and how it might be improved. I want this to be a continuous, open discussion, and I want you to be a part of it, no matter how you feel about Silksong. Way too many people cannot see Hollow Knight or Silksong for the masterpieces of game design they are, and just as many lack the ability to honestly criticize them. But you don't have to choose a side. I'm gonna sound like a bit of a cult leader here, but I'd like for you to join me, or rather us, in having a truthful discussion about Silksong, where no one is told to get good for wanting to criticize a game they love. So yes, I am asking you to subscribe to the channel, and part of that is just so I can continue putting time and effort into these videos despite work and studies. But the main part is that I love honest discussion, which is why when you look through my comment sections, you can see that I read every single comment. This, the Holland channel, is the Silksong discussion channel, where we dig deep and speak honestly about the game. And I want you to take part in that discussion. This is a call for revolution. Revolution against shallow arguments and name-calling. Against talking down to someone you disagree with. Against the idea that you cannot criticize the things that you love. If you want to be part of this movement, it's 100% free. All you have to do is hit the subscribe button down below. And so I ask you, will you join the cause? Or will you pick a side? Silksong is terrible, or Silksong is perfect, and die on that hill. Now, allow me to kick off this great adventure by telling you what I believe might be Silksong's fundamental issue. Hollow Knight Silksong is exactly what the title indicates, the original Hollow Knight, but more. More to explore, more mechanics, more complex enemies, etc. But what happens when you scale up a project like Hollow Knight without tending to all of its core issues? I think you get more of the good, and you get more of the bad. Take an enemy like the Spear Scar, part of the Cunning Ant tribe who prefers trapping and ambushing its prey to head-on brawls. Awesome design, great thematic, challenging to fight, but why is it impossible to figure out where he's trying to throw his spear or where anyone is trying to throw anything for that matter. Why are flying enemies still designed to float around randomly, making battle rooms like this one super dependent on luck? And why in God's name does every flying enemy, heck, almost every enemy period, have the ability to backdash away from your attack with no indication that your efforts would be entirely pointless? These ant warriors probably have a cooler design than any other tribe from the first game, but they have all of the same flaws. And because the enemies in this game get a lot more complex, such flaws are greatly exaggerated. If Hollow Knight is a beautiful country house with rats in the basement, then Silksong is that same house rebuilt as a mansion, bigger and more flashy, but with a larger basement to house more rats. Team Cherry never got rid of the rats. While I think the previous section sums up the core issue pretty well, there does exist another nasty problem which threatens all sequels. The fear that the developers never quite understood what exactly made their first game so great. Well, clearly Team Cherry understood a lot of it, but I'm not convinced they fully grasped all of it. In a video called 10 Things We Need in Silksong, made before the game's release, here's how I put it. If you get the reference, you get it. Team Cherry, be careful not to kill your Joel. Remember what made the first game so special. Now, do I believe Team Cherry actually killed their Joel, meaning they failed to recapture the magic of the first game? In some ways, that's a ridiculous statement. Obviously, they did a wonderful job on aspects like visual design and world building, and in others, it's worryingly accurate. This is all quite vague, so let me give you a concrete example. In the original Hollow Knight, the movement system is so crisp that even after hundreds of hours of gameplay, I struggle to come up with a substantial criticism. The nail swings as soon as you press the button, the dash is predictable, and the wings can be woven into a beautiful string of fluid inputs. I've heard that some people don't like the fact that the dash is always a set distance, but I personally love how reliable it feels. One of the only negative things I can say about the movement is that performing a double jump, seeing the wings come out, and then still being hit by a ground hazard can be slightly frustrating. But maybe that's a necessary evil to make the wings feel floaty. In either case though, it's a relatively minor issue. What I can say for certain is that the incredible responsiveness of the base movement, jump, dash, and pogo is what makes Hollow Knight one of the most fun games for me to play. It's a thing I've always adored about it, the fact that when I press the button, the thing happens. It feels so good, and man, it's so simple, you'd expect every game to behave like this. Now, trust me, it really pains me to say this, but I'm not sure Team Cherry ever fully grasped just how good it feels to have a game that instantly responds to your input. Because they sure didn't mind giving the Reaper Pogo a massive input delay, and don't even get me started on Beast. Heck, even the Hunter Crest has a slight delay from when you press the button to when you can actually pogo, meaning you can see the attack visually connect and still get hurt by whatever you were trying to pogo. In the clip you're seeing right now, I managed without any trouble to activate my pogo while still taking damage 5 times in a row. That is ridiculous and should not be possible. And abilities like the Drifter's Cloak have similar issues, such as the fact that you cannot cue the activation of the cloak while stuck in another animation, meaning you can sometimes press the cloak button and have absolutely nothing happen. Sounds minor, but it is really frustrating when it happens, and if you're not extremely careful about how you press the button on your keyboard, it's gonna happen a lot. I cannot tell you how many times I've pressed the button to activate the cloak, nothing happens, and I fall to my death. If you honestly think I'm being overly critical, I urge you to go back to the original Hollow Knight and fight a boss like Traitor Lord. Just use that game's moveset, especially the pogo, and come back and tell me if it isn't just so much nicer not to have to spend half of your brain power figuring out when you should be pogoing with Reaper or Beast, or when you're allowed to use the damn cloak. I was saddened by how much more flow I felt going back to Hollow Knight. I want Silksong to feel like that too. Now, I promise you, I have so much more to say on all of these topics, and I'll be covering each of them in a separate video. Not only because I want to share my complaints with you, but because I can't help but think there's a chance that some of these issues might be addressed in future updates to the game. Well, that is, if we give them enough of a spotlight. I think there are dozens of tiny changes you could make to Silksong that would turn it from a great but terribly frustrating game to just a great game. And my goal is to suggest enough changes to where, if all of them were fixed, Silksong would clearly and obviously surpass its predecessor. Cause right now, I don't think it does. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button and join us for this great adventure. I truly mean it when I say that I want to hear your thoughts in the comments. And if you're not much of a commenter, I'd still love to have you along for the ride. We're starting a revolution right here, right now. A revolution to make Silksong the best game it can be. Because although I loved exploring Farloom, completing quests and collecting crests, I spent a lot of hours wanting to stop playing. Silksong is already a great game, but it's not riding the waves, it's drowning in potential.